So The Life of a Showgirl came out. I didn't love it. Okay, so in my last video, I broke down and criticized Taylor Swift's use of showgirl aesthetics for her newest studio album, using my knowledge of showgirl history and my experience as a part-time burlesque performer as points of reference for my criticism. The video did pretty well for a channel of my size, actually, and even got a decent amount of comments, both supporting the strengths of my argument and pointing out the weaknesses in kind and constructive ways. I made that video as a way to break down and explain why Swift's use of showgirl aesthetics felt so personally offensive to me, for lack of a better word. But of course the album hadn't come out yet, so I just focused on how I felt about the promotional imagery. And while I wouldn't say I was excited for the album to come out after posting that video, I did feel a little curious about it. I may not be a Swiftie, but I love a good pop album as much as the next girl. I was hopeful, and so with much bated breath and anticipation, I waited for that fateful day for the new Taylor Swift album to drop. And then I forgot about it. I had work. I had things to do. Look, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, okay? Anyway, I forgot about it and didn't listen to it for a week. In which time, the reviews started to come out.
I am almost shocked at how truly bad this was. It just comes off so eye-rolling, so cringe at most points.
I just finished listening to The Life of a Showgirl. I'm a massive Swiftie, okay, massive. That being said, I didn't like it. The music itself, I was expecting like some bops and bangers, knowing like this was Max and Shellback producing. No.
And I have to say, as an ethical Taylor hater, the woman knows how to write a song. And it appears that the older that I get and the older that she gets, the quality of the songwriting, the depth of the songwriting is going down.
This is a very polarizing album, you guys. But listen, I've been tricked before. I listened to reviews that told me things were bad, and I listened to the reviews before going out and seeking the media for myself, only to find out later that I should have ignored those reviews. So I sat down at my office day job, put on my headphones, opened the album, and oh no. Wow, it's so bad. Oh, it's really bad. Oh, wow, it's bad. This is, no exaggeration, genuinely one of the worst albums that I've heard in my entire life. And I kind of feel bad for saying that because I'm not a music critic, I'm not a Taylor Swift hater or a Taylor Swift fan, so I feel like my foundation for Taylor Swift's music in particular is not that strong. But I am a dancer and a big fan of music. I listen to a lot of music. I love listening to reviews about music. And I'd like to think that I have good taste and can tell good music from bad music. And so in my unprofessional opinion, this is not good music. But we're gonna get to that. This is supposed to be a follow-up to my last video, which was about Taylor using showgirl aesthetics in this album. So what do I think about that? Do I think she did a good job? No.
It's false. No way. Not this time.
In this follow-up video, I will be dissecting the actual album of The Life of a Showgirl. I'm gonna talk about everything from the music videos to the choreography to the actual songs themselves. That's 4. I know how to count. And hopefully we can learn something from all of this. So, without further ado, part 1, the good. Actually, you know what? I have one main thing that's good that I want to talk about. Part 1A. I like The Fate of Ophelia, actually. The Fate of Ophelia is, in my opinion, the best song on the album. It is a fun and well-paced pop song about how the love she receives from her fiancé Travis Kelce saved her from an unhappy ending, like the titular Ophelia from Shakespeare's Hamlet, who dies at the end of the play by drowning in a river. I like the singing, the beat, the instrumentals, the structure, and I catch myself singing along to it on my own just randomly. On top of the song being good, the accompanying music video is also really well done. I honestly recommend pausing this video and going to check it out because it's kind of a really cool watch. But if you haven't seen it, it is basically a collection of vignettes, with Taylor performing as different female archetypes within the entertainment industry throughout the 20th century. There are visual references to Shakespeare, of course, but also opera, lounge music, old Hollywood movies, and of course Vegas showgirls. I find the direction and incorporation of these vignettes to be really compelling and visually appealing, and I find that they also complement the song's lyrics as well as the album's themes as a whole. I mean, hell, what better way to demonstrate the life of a showgirl than by portraying a bevy of them throughout history? Swift also directed this video, and I gotta say, she has an eye for this kind of thing. The camera direction is really fun and dynamic, and the cuts and editing match up with the lyrics. There's a line where she says, "You're quite the pyro," and then there's a fire breather that shows up on screen. That's a nice little touch. And the costumes and color palette are super vibrant and fun to look at, and overall, it's just a really enjoyable music video experience. It works. But Okay, look, I do technically have other nice things to say about this album, but honestly, this is where the section kinda ends for now because my enjoyment of it goes downhill really quickly. So I am sorry, but before I can even get to all the other things that I liked about this album, I do have to get into the things I don't like about this music video and about the song before I pull my hair out. So we're just gonna jump ahead to the bad. Okay, so you know how I just said I really liked the music video for The Fate of Ophelia? That is true for almost everything. Okay, so it's pretty well known at this point that Taylor Swift is not the best dancer on the planet. She has often been described as being too stiff and not having much rhythm, and this is considered a pro or a con depending on who you ask. The supposed pros of Taylor not really focusing on dance is that it allows her to focus on her vocal performance while her, and let's not get it twisted, incredibly talented team of backup dancers provide a beautiful, compelling, technical backdrop for the song. It also demonstrates that you do not need to be a good dancer to be a good live performer, and I think this adds a lot to her sense of relatability. I mean, after all, most people do not dance like professional dancers. I'm a semi-professional dancer, and even I don't dance like professional dancers. It's much easier to relate to a pop star who dances the way that you dance at your cousin's wedding than it is to relate to Beyonce shaking her ass exceptionally well at Beychella. I think this is also why the music video for Shake It Off was spread so quickly. It's so easy to emulate and parody because literally everyone dances the way Taylor dances in the Shake It Off video. Taylor Swift can't dance, and neither can you, and that's okay. But when your album is called The Life of a Showgirl and you are emulating showgirl aesthetics, wouldn't you also want to try and emulate the style of dance that showgirls do instead of doing whatever the heck this is? This choreography just feels so out of place when you consider the visual components of this album, but it also just feels out of place with the song itself, which is crazy when you consider who choreographed this number. The choreo was done by Mandy Moore, a famous Hollywood choreographer who has worked on major projects like Dancing with the Stars, La La Land, and notably the Eras Tour. That's right, she choreographed the Eras Tour.
Ended up being like, okay, great, we're gonna do a little meeting.
Yeah.
Then it was very quickly, there's no meeting, you have the job. She only wants you.
And right off the bat, I need to acknowledge that she knows her shit. I watched a lot of interviews with her discussing her craft while researching this video, and she clearly has a great understanding of how to create choreography for the screen in a way that is both technically proficient as well as visually compelling.
One of the hardest things as we went through the process of choreographing La La Land was figuring out the bridge from normal people just doing everyday things, everyday gestures, and how does that then move to dance? I'll count something the way that I want people to dance.
Yeah.
So, it'd be like 5 and 8 and 1. Click, click, and feel that.
She also clearly loved working with Taylor and seems to be very proud of her work on this collaboration, which honestly I completely understand. And I honestly think it's so great to see someone like her be proud of what she's accomplished here, as well as all the work that has brought her to this point in her career. But if I'm being honest, I personally don't feel like the choreography stuck the landing here for a few reasons. The first, which I already mentioned, is that it just feels so out of place with the music itself. While The Life of a Showgirl is a pop album with a lot of high energy numbers, The Fate of Ophelia is a pretty low energy song when you actually listen to it on its own. It's slower, the vocal range stays within a certain scale, and while it has a really good beat that makes you want to tap your foot, I personally would not consider this a song that makes you want to get up and dance. Contrastingly, the choreography in this music video is just so intense and high energy. There's a lot of big hand motions and fast pacing and sharp movements. It does work when the camera is switching between scenes or moving alongside Taylor and the other performers, but the actual dance parts, especially during the chorus, really draw attention to the contrast between the song's more romantic tone and the intensity of the dance sequence in a way that frankly never really feels synergetic. To better explain what I'm talking about, I kind of want to reference another Taylor music video where I actually think this contrast does work, and that is the aggressive interpretive dance done in Taylor's music video for Delicate from the Reputation album. This choreo was done by Ryan Hevington, who is best known for his routines in Sia's Chandelier and Elastic Heart videos, which both draw heavily from contemporary and interpretive dance styles. He uses a similar style in this music video, having Taylor move in large and somewhat nonsensical ways. Now, you could interpret this choice as a choreography coming up with a goofy and easy choreography for his less than qualified celebrity client. Contemporary dance does unfortunately have a bit of a bad reputation in that I think if you don't come from a dance world, you can kind of assume that you can do it without any technical skill. And Taylor's not the most qualified dancer, so in theory it makes sense to have her do a dance style that can get away with not requiring any technique, because then you can brush it off as a stylistic choice. But in my opinion, there are deeper themes at play here with this choice. More specifically, the contrast between the choreography and the song itself. The interpretive dance style purposefully feels out of place to symbolize Taylor breaking out of her mental restraints and letting go. The song's lyrics describe dealing with a delicate situation, but Taylor is decidedly dancing in a very undelicate fashion. This gives the video a really great sense of contrast. The choreography clashes with the song's lyrics in a really intentional way. I also think it's worth pointing out here that the choreography does not start off strong and then just kind of stay there for the rest of the video. Instead, it starts off pretty low energy and then builds energy throughout the music video, giving the whole number a great sense of musicality, but also growth in storytelling. So while the moves themselves may feel out of place in this kind of ballady sounding song, the choreography fits the tone of the song while also providing visual storytelling for the music video. Now, if you look at the Fate of Ophelia, that music video also has a kind of heavier dance style with a lighter sounding song. So why don't I find that it works in that music video as opposed to the music video for Delicate? Well, if I go back to my original reasons, contrast and musicality, those don't really seem to work in the same way that they did for Delicate. For example, there's nothing in the musical composition of The Fate of Ophelia that provides any kind of heavy weight like it does in Delicate. There's no heavy bass, no synths, no large orchestration. The song is more light and fluffy and feel good, with piano and chimes and kind of twinkly sound effects. Sonically, it actually reminds me a lot of Bejeweled, and the choreography in that music video was more ballet, burlesque, kind of pin-up-y vibes. I think if you took a choreography like the one from Delicate and tried to put it in a music video for a song that sounded like Bejeweled, it just wouldn't work, and I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. So seeing this kind of heavy and beat-focused choreo in a song as light and airy as The Fate of Ophelia just doesn't really work for me. Also, unlike in Delicate, it doesn't seem like it's trying to provide any contrast in any real way. Instead, the choreography seems intended to accompany the music in a complementary way. Just look at the moves during the Keep It 100 on the land, the sky, the sea lyrics. Those moves mimic the lyrics pretty literally, which, side note, I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't think literal choreography is always bad, but it does feel a bit too childlike at times. You know, like when you're a kid and you're doing Itsy Bitsy Spider and your hand motions are matching up to the lyrics of the nursery rhyme. It also kind of reminds me of Ben Platt doing weird hand motions in his songs in the Dear Evan Hansen film. I didn't watch that movie, I just watched Jenny Nicholson react to it. I also feel the need to point out that Taylor does not look natural doing this dance. I mentioned earlier that Taylor will get praised or criticized for being a poor dancer depending on who you ask, but I do feel the need to point out that while Taylor maybe is not a great dancer, she does possess musicality. If you watch her perform live, you can see that all of her movements sync up with music. Look at this clip from her performing Cruel Summer at the Eras Tour. Her steps match with the beat and musicality of the song that she's performing. You can even see it in the video for The Fate of Ophelia during the Silver Siren portion of the music video. She moves her hips in a way that lines up with the music's beats, but that still complement the song's melody. I think if the choreography as a whole looked more like this, it would fit the song a lot better, and I wouldn't be making this video in the first place. I also understand that a lot of this is subjective. I know a lot of people seem to really like this choreography. I think the reason is that it's easy to do. I saw a few people doing this dance on TikTok, and I don't think it's crazy for choreographers to create simpler dances, whether that's something they want to do because it's more accessible to more people, or because they feel obligated to, just based on this social media consumer landscape we currently live in. I understand that there's a certain level of marketing to dance, especially where pop culture and pop music is concerned. Think about it, some of the most popular songs in pop culture incorporate some kind of dance. One of my favorite recent examples of simple but really effective choreography is the music video for Back on 74 from Jungle. The choreography in that music video is very much inspired by tap, jazz, cabaret from the 80s, and Bob Fosse in particular. The choreography was simple enough to follow along to that a bunch of brands and companies did their own version of the dance, but you could still see a lot of proficiency and technique when you saw the professional dancers doing the dance. Actually, the choreography in that Jungle music video really feels like a great way to interpret showgirl and cabaret aesthetics in a modern way. Use of the Fosse arms is a great example of this. It also makes me really hate the arm motions in the Fate of Ophelia music video so much more. Those in particular really feel off to me. The way the arms move in this music video just do not read as romantic or showgirl to me. I particularly hate the use of these straight out arm movements that I think are supposed to add punch to the song, but it just doesn't line up with the right parts of the song to me. Just do your hands, There's not enough heavy bass tones in it to line up with the striking nature of the dance. Soft ballet arms I think would have fit the tone of the music video better, and considering all the showgirl homages, I'm shocked there aren't any references to ballet dancers here. Ballerinas are showgirls too if we're going to go by a looser definition of the Vegas depiction. In fact, let's jump ahead and talk a little bit about that title, The Life of a Showgirl. One of the ways that I saw people defending this album online was that The Life of a Showgirl is not meant to be taken literally. That the title is meant to reflect more Taylor's inner world. The life of a showgirl, rather than the life of a showgirl, if you will. And while I don't think that's necessarily a bad take, I do think it makes sense, especially if you look back on Taylor's catalog of introspection in her previous albums. But, and I feel the need to point this out, she didn't just call her album The Life of a Showgirl, she promoted the album using showgirl aesthetics. I know this is a point that I keep coming back to, but it bears repeating. If you're going to release an album called The Life of a Showgirl, and you're using showgirl imagery and aesthetics in your promotional material, I think it is understandable why people would be confused if the album itself does not sound like showgirl music, or if the dancing does not look like showgirl dancing. And that's where I think the message gets muddled a little bit. Is this an album inspired by previous showgirls that came before you and the ones that inspired you and your craft currently, or is it about your inner dialogue? The two can coexist and live in perfect harmony, but this album doesn't feel like it's doing that. It feels like Taylor putting on a showgirl costume and saying, I can be a showgirl. Can you? Well, we are going to attempt to answer that question in part 3. This was not meant to be 3 parts, but here we are. I have a lot of thoughts and not enough time to get them all on paper. But I promise in the next video I will go through the actual album and also the video for Opalite that just came out. If you would like to subscribe and wait for that video to come, I promise I will try to get it out as soon as possible and maybe upload some other videos as well. And yeah, if you would like to support me, I would really appreciate that. I want to really make burlesque my career, and that involves talking about it, not just performing it. So thank you for hearing my perspective on this. Thank you so much for your patience, and I will see you at the next one. Bye!